Hey there, Amanda here, and welcome back to My Author's Journey. If you haven't already, be sure to visit myauthor'sjourney.com to subscribe for more tips on the writing, publishing, and book launch process. Now let's dive in. Technology. It's a love-hate relationship for me. Anything seems possible with it, and nothing seems right when it stops working. This has proven true in no exaggeration, every book project I've worked on to date, be it my own work or writing for someone else. I've lost hard drives, entire computers, and countless documents at the altar of publishing over the last decade. Somehow I convinced myself that in completing the production of my audiobook, my rookie dues had been paid in full. Boy, was I wrong. Time out for a second. The book isn't even that long. Heck, it's a workbook, and small enough and easy enough for anyone to get through no matter their age. And yet somehow the publishing gods felt I still had unfinished business in my author initiation. After the amount of time it took to write that first book, and by the way, that's not the one you can find at a bookseller. As you may remember from an earlier video, this one was total crap, and it deserved to die with the laptop it took down. The printed draft was joyfully tossed into a bonfire shortly after to ensure full destruction of all the evidence. But I digress. The first book was atrocious, and when I finally got clear on what I wanted to say, who I was talking to, and how I wanted the reader to experience the message, the first draft of the actual book that went into publishing only took a day to get it out of my head and onto paper. I remember sitting in a Caribou Coffee in North Minneapolis that winter afternoon, elbows deep in coffee-stained legal pads and paper scraps with my illegible handwriting. Sure, I had plenty more ideas I wanted to include, but I knew this was it. The other ideas were for other books. I had my rough manuscript. I ordered another coffee as I sat in disbelief for a few moments. It was absolutely beyond me that the only thing that made the process hard up until this point was me getting in my own way. I knew I still had a long road ahead of me when it came to editing and publishing and everything that comes after, but I felt more disappointed in myself than excited about the next steps in that moment. I thought, hey self, why'd you have to make it so hard for so long? We could have been so much further ahead by now. Fast forward through the challenges of the publishing process, running out of money, running out of motivation, then raising the funds and finally sending the dang thing to the printer. I got an incredible job offer working for people I adore, doing work I love, so life didn't have to be so hard for a while. I worked from home during the day, took long walks while I listened to audiobooks at night, and once I settled into my new work routine, felt I could confidently begin recording my own audiobook without it taking away from my career role. Very, very, very fortunately, a few years earlier, I enrolled in Voiceover Essentials, a local beginner's class to learn voiceover acting. At the time, my intention was just to find a new fun hobby. Since people always told me how animated and expressive I am when I speak, even if they didn't mean it as a compliment, I thought it was a better alternative than underwater basket weaving or whatever else people do with their spare time. I was so used to working multiple jobs for so many years, I felt guilty if I wasn't busy and tired all the time. I didn't know what to do with this time. It was pretty messed up. But it ended up working out in my favor as I fell in love with the range of freedom and safety, having that script to read from in front of me and very few eyes watching me do my thing. My instructors, Sarah Jones Larson and Dave Larson, became dear friends. They didn't just help me find my voice, but also hone my skills in other ways through the voice acting work and their voice acting expo events. I'll talk more about the School of Voiceover in a future video, but their professional training and events helped connect me with others in the field, including a wonderful talent who lived just a few minutes away from where I was staying at the time. She generously let me use her professional home recording studio after work every day, and little by little, the book recording was complete, just in the nick of time before I moved out west for that new job. I let the currents of life sweep me away to the next thing, and before I knew it, years had passed. I honestly lost track of the number of places I lived during that 3-year span. I did return to Minnesota for a while, then took off to live abroad for a few years on an exciting work adventure. I'm so grateful for all of those experiences and to be back in Minnesota again to lay down some deeper roots, conveniently as the pandemic shut life down as we knew it. The one regret I do have is that my audiobook files lived in a Dropbox folder for years, untouched and unheard. I worked so hard to get that little book cranked out, yet I let the unfinished audiobook version camp out mere inches away from the finish line. There's a whole lot more to the story, of course, but when it really came down to it, I was the only one, once again, standing in the way of bringing this dream into reality. I was making it so much harder than it had to be. Since my work screeched to a halt as the world went into lockdown, my time instantly freed up so I could confront that unfinished audiobook at last. I found a great freelance audio engineer through an online marketing group to complete the production, and we were on our way. While my producer worked on the audio files, I sent my first children's book into publishing, worked on cranking out another ebook, created an online course, rebranded my company, and launched a podcast. I lost a month of work to a back injury and finished out the last week of 2020 by starting my author's journey. Sure, I made a ton of progress, and I don't tell you all of this to toot my own horn. The point is, the audiobook still wasn't done. As I send this video out into the world, I am email volleying with my 8th support representative from ACX, the online platform that's owned by Amazon, which publishes audiobooks for Audible. My amazing producer, bless her, has edited and re-edited a handful of files more than what should be considered the legal limit. And while she has compliance certificates for the files in question, the thing is freaking done. We are still inches away from being able to publish. Ugh, frustrating. But I'm not surprised in the least. I can even enjoy one hell of a belly laugh as I proof listen now, instead of crying and feeling miserable about my unmet expectations or overanalyzing what this delay means about who I am as a person and my success. I have learned so much more than I ever bargained for when it comes to writing and publishing. I've learned about myself, about life, and really, the lessons have just begun. Like I said in my last video, these words are not edited, and it obviously shows as the story kind of bounces around quite a bit as I'm talking here. But I really want to drive home a few important points in case you haven't caught them along the way. Number one, if you have a dream, start now. Today, damn it. Life's ups and downs are going to happen anyway. The time is going to pass anyway. Challenges will happen anyway. One of the biggest lessons I've had to learn this year is having more time to do the projects was never really the issue. Not having momentum was. Once I got back into my groove, I still had a bunch of hard life stuff coming my way, but it was way easier to handle the challenges while I was in motion than from a state of stop and go and stop and go. Even with the major setbacks, I was able to achieve much more in the long run by taking consistent action because I was already in motion. And the little things, I just plain didn't have time to keep them on my radar. Start taking action towards achieving your dream. Get traction, gain momentum, and before you know it, you'll look back and wonder, just like I did, why in the heck did I not start sooner? Number 2. Even when you do the quote, unquote, right activity toward your dreams, new challenges will pop up and sometimes cause delays. In writing and publishing, they'll almost always cause delays. Be it technology, outside people, or platforms, act of God, pandemic, whatever. My dad always said, you can be sure that life will throw shit your way when you least expect it, and it's up to you to know that in advance and be prepared for when shit hits the fan so you can take care of it. I think that absolutely applies to pursuing your dreams, whatever they may be. Know you will be tested. Timelines and outcomes will be tested. Newsflash, your relationships and finances and confidence will be tested. It's your responsibility to see it coming and prepare the best you can so you can handle it and take care of you when shit hits the fan. You'll be all right. you'll get there. Right or wrong, getting into activity is the answer. Number 3, what you first set out to do may not look the same when you get there. Heck, you may not look the same when you get there. It might be a completely different timeline than you'd hoped and cost more than you budgeted. You may get to your destination and realize there's actually an entirely different and brand new mountain to climb right in front of you. Take heart, my friend. Some of these detours are by design because a lesson needs to be learned first before you share yourself or it with the world. In these detours, we find the exact tools and people we need to take the next steps and ultimately to have a better result in the end. Your dream will always live in the land of someday if you don't begin somewhere. Don't worry about what it looks like when you first start out. Expect changes and expect to improve along the way. Remember what I said about detaching from the outcome? When you do, and I know it's hard, I still struggle with the surrender, you'll be surprised how much better the journey is and what unexpected inspiration springs up to make your dream that much richer, more vibrant, more true, and you. I had to laugh when I heard my finished audiobook with the recently recorded retake stitched in. In one file, I sounded possessed, and in the final version, it was such a stark contrast between what I initially recorded now 4 years ago versus the retake from 4 weeks ago. Somewhere in there, I guess I went through puberty again. My voice sounds completely different. Then again, my inner voice is different now too. I'd like to think I'm a bit wiser, but I know without a doubt I am so much clearer in who I am, what I want to say, and how I want to show up in the world. My writing, my work, my entire life reflects that. I'm going to keep on growing and learning to love who I'm becoming in the process, flaws and all. Well, I could go back and re-record the audiobook so it sounds more consistent and cohesive from beginning to end. I think I'd like to keep it this way as a reminder of this important life message to myself, to you, and to anyone with a dream in their heart. Don't wait. Don't delay. You'll never regret starting, but you'll always regret it if you don't. Give yourself a chance to let your dreams see the light of day. Don't let it live and die just inches away from the finish line. Start now and finish strong. Thanks for being here on my author's journey. I'll see you soon, my friends. Same bat time, same bat channel. And in the meantime, check out my podcast, The Goal Next Door, where you get out of your head and create real connection anywhere, starting today. Bye for now.